Good afternoon. So, as you heard in the introduction, my talk this afternoon is about meditation. I'm a Buddhist monk, and I work with meditation myself and also with writing about meditation and giving classes and courses in meditation. But very particularly, I'm going to discuss meditation through the lens of the theme of happiness. So I've always been very fascinated by the question of happiness, I think particularly because it was very deep and profound unhappiness that got me involved in this path of meditation in the first place. I was very young and I became a monk 30 years ago. I joined a monastery because I was really in a state of burnout. My levels of stress and unhappiness had led me to really falling apart. And I tried everything. I tried to find happiness through career, through relationships, through a very, very wild social life, through anything I could do to try to make myself feel better. And yet I was suffering from so much anxiety, so much misery, so much unhappiness. And I wanted to learn meditation, and I thought I'll go to a monastery and learn it. And 4 days after arriving at the monastery, I became a monk, with the plan of only staying for a year, but that year turned into my life, in that at the end of the year, I decided to take vows for another year, and then another year. I think after 3 or 4 years of being a kind of short-term monk, I took the life ordination, and that was 30 years ago. And what I've been learning from Buddhist philosophy is a very, very interesting and I think very important approach to the question of happiness, which is that we see happiness as a trainable skill of the mind, something that can be cultivated from within, regardless of external circumstances. And I'm sure you'd all agree that we're so, as human beings, we're all looking for happiness in many different ways, and it feels so elusive. It feels elusive because everything is impermanent, everything is subject to change, and our markers for happiness keep changing. What we get is never enough. It seems impossible at times. The main issue is that we seek happiness to be somehow given to us as a sort of product of our lifestyle. So it's very much externalized. And we tell ourselves this mantra, I will be happy when, I will be happy if, I will be happy because. So we become quite vulnerable in that space of trying to manipulate the world around us so that it can make us happy. And what we find is that this search for happiness simply leads to more of a search, because everything works according to habit. If we have a habit of seeking happiness, the seeking leads to more seeking. So the problem with the search for happiness is the search itself. Searching leads to more searching. We get what we want, not always, but sometimes, and then we find it's not enough. We want something different, or we want more. And it becomes like an endless hunger. This, of course, is wildly provoked and manipulated by the culture we inhabit. It was very interesting for me in all these years of being a monk. I've lived many years in a monastery. I've also been out here in the world, traveling and teaching and being very busy. But there was a period where I went very much into a quiet space. In 2005, I went into a four-year-long meditation retreat, which is a very intensive kind of meditation boot camp, sort of training camp, where you're on a remote island and you have no contact with the outside world. What was interesting for me, well, many things about it were interesting and difficult, but one of the interesting things was coming out of that retreat and coming back into the city, into London, and the whole smartphone revolution had happened. social media, YouTube, all of that had happened during my 4 years of retreat. So I came out of retreat to a very different landscape in terms of how people were processing and are processing information. How much information, news, social media, etc., comes to us in quite an invasive fashion. And to me, this was quite a shock to the system because I'd been away from technology for so long. But I think it's very true to say that our endless search for something is being constantly manipulated in that the messaging we receive, which is now received in such an insistent and invasive fashion through our phones, through notifications, etc., the messaging is all about telling us you don't have enough, you need more. So there's a sense of provoking our sense of needing and wanting and chasing. And also, there's a sense of you are not enough. How could you possibly be enough without this product that I'm trying to sell you? You need it in order to feel complete. So this sort of illusion of completeness is pushed on us all the time, and we never really feel complete. So the meditation approach, the answer within the world of meditation, whether one labels oneself Buddhist or not is totally unimportant, but I think everybody can benefit from meditation. And the meditation approach is to understand happiness as an internal skill and something that can be cultivated, trained, almost like building muscle. And it has a lot to do with how we relate to our own thoughts and feelings. What really makes us unhappy is when our mind gets locked into a negative state, a feeling of stress, a feeling of unhappiness, a feeling of desperation. And we don't know how to get out of that. So we find ourselves engaged in a sort of battle with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our feelings. And so meditation is about changing that. Now, when I first learned meditation, I found it enormously difficult. In fact, I didn't like it at all, and it was sort of too late because I'd already joined a monastery and now reading the small print and then not liking it. And the reason I struggled so much when I first learnt meditation was because I had bought into a myth that many people have bought into, which is this idea that meditation is about clearing your mind, sort of stilling your mind, getting rid of all the thoughts, going into a kind of empty space where there's no thoughts and no feelings. That's what I thought. And the more I tried to meditate, the more unhappy I became because it was so impossible. The more you try to push your thoughts away, the more forcefully they shout in your head. And this kind of approach to meditation is what generally leads people to give up because they feel like a failure. It's so hard to sit there and try and clear your mind. And also, it wouldn't be of much use anyway. If we could switch off for 10 or 15 minutes and be in almost like an unconscious state, so what? Then we're back to normal life, life carries on. How have we changed by having 10 or 15 minutes of just blankness? So that's not it. What we are trying to do in meditation is change our relationship with our thoughts and feelings. And this is important because without meditation, our relationship with our own thoughts and feelings is quite complex in that we are not always in the driving seat. So even though we are, to some extent, feeling that we are in control of our lives, to a large extent, we're not in control of our minds. Because it's so often that our minds go to places we don't want our minds to go. And once our mind has gone to that place, we don't know how to get out. So it's almost as if we're not fully behind the wheel of the car and it's driving all over the place. So with meditation, we're not trying to eradicate our thoughts. I mean, when I first started, I thought, am I supposed to eradicate my thoughts and become blank like a kind of robot? And I was quite frightened of that. And I was very relieved to find out that that's not what it's about. So we're not trying to eradicate or remove the thoughts, but we want to change our relationship with our thoughts. Because if we can be in the driving seat, that's how we can cultivate true happiness. Because we can consciously cultivate positive, compassionate, loving, forgiving, happy states of mind, and we can learn to consciously move away from the states of mind that are harmful to us. How? So when we meditate, what we generally do is we use a technique. There are many techniques. The most common one, the most well-known one, is breathing. I say breathing as a technique, but actually it's what we do all the time. We breathe night and day. Breathing meditation doesn't mean you have to do a special kind of breathing. You just breathe normally, but you have something to focus on. And that's very useful for beginners when you start off, is to have something to focus on. You focus on your breathing, which means you are fully in the present moment, and you're not being swept away by thoughts and feelings, so you're really in the here and now. Okay, that sounds simple on paper. But anybody in this room who has meditated will know it's actually very messy, and it's not as simple as it sounds, because what happens is you start meditating, you're focusing on your breathing, and then within a few seconds the mind starts wandering. Within a few seconds the mind is going all over the place. I mean, it's really quite surprising where the mind goes. You know, one minute you're with the breathing, the next moment you're skiing in the Alps, or you're planning a menu, or you're thinking of emails you need to write, or making plans. The mind goes all over the place. And that is where many meditators, when they start off, that is where they start to feel frustrated. They feel they're failing because they want to be with the breath, and then suddenly the mind is doing all this other stuff and they think, I've got it wrong. Actually, that is not failure. This is part of the meditation journey. Because when your mind wanders, well, here's a question. When your mind wanders, you know, you're focusing on your breath and then your mind wanders. Here's the question. Do you know that your mind is wandering, or do you find out later? You find out later, don't you? Because it's almost as if you're with the breath and then you kind of fall asleep in a way, or you lose it, and then you wake up inside your thoughts and you think, where was I? That is meditation. Waking up inside your thoughts is meditation. So the mind has wandered, and then there's that moment where you recognize, oh, my mind is wandering. Now you've regained your awareness. You are back behind the wheel of the car, and then you drive the car back to the breath. So it's the coming back to the breath that makes you strong, because every time you come back, you are asserting a sense of power, the power of choice. You are choosing what to do with your mind. And you're developing that skill so that over time, if you meditate every day, that skill can start to emerge in your life. Because you can start to let go of stress, let go of distraction, let go of unhappiness. You can start to consciously send your mind into a more positive space. So it's the coming back to the breath from the thought that makes you strong, which means the thought, the distraction that took you away in your meditation is actually quite helpful. If coming back is what makes you strong, you need to have somewhere to come back from. So this is a very important message about meditation, because if you understand this, you won't feel so frustrated when you're sitting there meditating and the mind is going all over the place. You might start to understand that those thoughts are making your meditation stronger because they're giving you the opportunity to keep coming back. So meditation is that daily exercise, sitting down and working on the mind so that you strengthen the power of awareness and you strengthen the ability to cultivate inner peace and happiness. But equally important is what you do the rest of the time. And this is something which when I first meditated, I didn't know about it. I thought you just have to sit there. I would do long sessions, sometimes 2 or 3 hours. And I thought, well, that's it. My work is done. And then the rest of the day, just total distraction. And it doesn't really progress that way. It only starts to progress when you learn how to integrate the meditation into your daily life by practicing moments of mindful awareness, even in busy situations. So what that means is you're meditating every morning, perhaps, as a session, but then the rest of the day you practice little moments, even while you're busy. I don't mean you have to keep sitting down on a chair and doing the breathing. I mean it's momentary drops of awareness throughout the day. You could be sitting behind a desk, you could be standing at a sink washing your hands, you can be brushing your teeth, you can be doing any mundane activity, and you can do it mindfully, which means, say, you're washing your hands, it means you feel the hands, the water, the soap. You feel the moment. You bring your attention into your body, into the sensations of the here and now. You're standing in a queue and you feel the ground under your feet. You are sitting behind a desk. You take a moment to feel the chair under you. It sounds incredibly simplistic, but it's psychologically incredibly transformative, because what you're doing is you're bringing meditation moments into your daily life, and this keeps you one step ahead of the build-up of unhappiness and stress in your mind and body. It becomes very interesting when you learn how to actively create those moments in stressful situations. So when you practice being mindful standing in a queue, for example, or when you're stuck in traffic, or even just in a car and it stops at the red light, or you're waiting for a train, any of these kind of waiting situations, those are quite valuable moments for meditation training, because what you're doing is you're working with meditation against the current, or against the odds. What I mean by that is, normally when we're waiting for something, without planning or thinking, we just automatically go into a state of stress. It could be very low level, just a feeling of frustration or feeling of being stuck, but it's an automatic impulsive reaction, and here we're changing that. So we're working with our brain's neuroplasticity. We're creating new neural pathways. Instead of going down the same old pathway of stress, impatience, frustration, we're being more creative. We're stuck in a traffic, or we're standing in a queue, and we're going into a mindful moment. Feel the ground under your feet, feel the chair under your body, all of that. And what that means is that you are meeting stress with a calm, relaxed mind. This doesn't make you passive or sort of like a victim. It simply means you can stay cool under fire. Because if you build up that habit by starting with small things such as queues, traffic jams, little waiting situations, you're building up that connection in your mind between a difficult situation and a relaxed, calm response. And then that new way of being can start to emerge in your life. And this is how you can then start to learn to be happy and positive, even in troubled times, even in difficult situations. It also means that those difficult situations that normally one would feel are disastrous and we just want to get away from them, it means they could start to become almost training opportunities. Next time you're stuck in traffic, you might think, oh, now I can do that thing that I learned from that monk. You know, I can do that, I can do the thing, I can do the mindfulness. So you're stuck in traffic and you sort of feel sort of kind of grateful for the opportunity. And this attitude of feeling open and curious to meet the challenges with a calm mind, that becomes a habit too. And you can start to find the more challenging situations of life as opportunities, as ways of building your meditation practice. I think this is a very important definition of meditation. There are many more definitions, but this aspect is very important, because I think sometimes people assume meditation is a little bit like running away, escapism, or they feel it's just a relaxation exercise, a bit like going for a spa treatment or a massage or something. And actually, if you If you think about the things I've said today, it might help you to see meditation from a deeper perspective and to see how transformative it can be and how much of a life skill it can be, and also how relevant it is in a busy, stressful modern world and in the workplace. I do a lot of work with people in highly stressed situations, people working in hospitals, in companies, in schools, in prisons, all these different environments where life is very pressured, and they are learning how moments of meditation throughout the day can help them to see their situation very differently. You start to, it's not about removing the stress, but it's about almost welcoming the stress and using it for transformation through the skill of meditation. So what I've talked about today is two styles of meditation, really, and I think we need them both. One is to sit down and really train on coming back to the breath, and that's to do with a practical session, sitting and practicing meditation every day. And then the other one is these micro moments of mindfulness practiced regularly throughout the day. If we can apply both, then we are becoming the creators of our own happiness, because we are cultivating that skill from within. So I'd like to end our session by just tasting some meditation together. If you like, we can try that, just sitting on your chairs, but just to taste this exercise of returning. So it's good to sit straight, it's good to have a balanced posture. And we're just going to do a couple of minutes. Just let your mind settle into your body, be aware of your body. And it's always good to start by setting a very compassionate goal or intention, which means to start by taking a moment to think, I'm going to meditate for my own benefit and the benefit of others. This is not just about me, but if I meditate, I can become more helpful to others. I can become more kind, more calm, less reactive. So try to remind yourself you're doing this for you and you're doing this for others. Take a moment to think about that. Okay, and now be aware of your hands. Your hands are resting in your lap or on your knees, wherever they are. Just be aware of the weight of your hands on your lap. Be aware of the chair under you, the weight of your body on the chair. Be aware of your shoulders. Now bring your focus down to the front of your body and feel how your breathing makes your body just contract and expand rhythmically. Try to breathe very naturally. Don't deliberately breathe differently, but just be aware of your breathing, and when your mind wanders, gently come back to the breath. Remember that you're not trying to clear your mind. It's just that when your mind goes off into distraction, you gently return to the breath, returning, coming back again and again. And the last step is to make a strong commitment to yourself that you're going to take greater care of your own mental health and well-being for your benefit and the benefit of others. And stop there. Thank you very much for your time. I hope it was beneficial.